worrisome to say the least. This one, a little better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is something they can point to. Of course, all this is the same roughly kind of job growth we saw under Biden, which they said was terrible and ruinous and disastrous. So, they're going to spin it. They'll talk about how great it is. It doesn't necessarily tell us where things will go in a month or 2 months if these tariffs really do go into effect. And it's also interesting, we don't know yet the full impact of all of these layoffs or, attempts to lay off these thousands and thousands of federal government workers, the spin-off effects that's going to have on the economy in different parts of the country.
Exactly. That's where I want to go with this conversation. From what we have seen throughout the past 6 weeks, 2 months, this is just an indicator of how deceiving and how mixed up these people are. Knowing that we've seen all these layoffs and all these firings, what they don't do is tell you in this jobs report deal how many people jumped job from job or done whatever. And if anything, it should actually be looked upon as a negative whenever you have a high jobs report, because to me, that tells me that there's instability in the market and there's too many people that's moving around or being fired or quitting their jobs or being laid off or whatever. So this indicator that they're trying to poke down people's mouths is a lie. It's a deception. And that's the reason why the feds knows this. They're not stupid. They either going to make their money in volume, the same as Walmart, by selling many, many, many more products. And if you sell twice or 3 times or 1,000 times more products than what the next guy down the road is, you can drop the price of that product because you're making it up in volume. Same way with the money, with the interest and everything with the banks. If they can't make the money, and this is the part that Donald Trump, I don't think, gets, but Bill Clinton did, whenever it comes to formulas. But if they can't stay afloat by dropping the interest because of the volume of so many people going out here getting extended loans or buying houses or whatever, cars or houses, then they make it up on the other end by raising the interest rate up. In other words, they got a plateau that they got to meet every day. Every day. And they'll know if they're going in the red in what they have to put back into the pool. And if they're not putting it back into the pool, then they'll make it up by raising the interest rates. So this whole thing that they try to shove down people's throats is all a big delusion. It's not fabricated, but what it is, it's a half-truths. They're not telling the whole truth whenever it comes to the job market situation, just like they're not telling the whole truth whenever it comes to the Fed and how the Fed stays afloat. They're either the American people are naive, or we have such swift deceivers out there that they think that they can pull the wool over the American people's eyes again and again and again. And which, you know what, I tend to wonder if that's what's been happening all along. Now, there's a few of the smart ones, they can see through all this. They know what's going on. And there is going to be a shift whenever it comes to the financial market regarding how that they're going to try to basically kill the dollar bill. That way they can go to a digital system of some sort. I don't know what that digital system is going to be, but they know that they have failed in the sense of so much dark money, so much illegal money that's floating around, that's keeping various people alive, that they're not getting any type of collections on. They're trying to figure out how to fix the system without actually having a shock and awe to the American people. That way they won't buck up and fight against the new system that they're trying to bring into play. And that's the area that they're tippy-toeing in, and that's the area that China and all the other countries over there, especially those in Sweden, and that's already done played it off towards how more efficient that the digital system is in being able to regulate and control each and every dollar or each and every transaction. I think they're going to call it credits. Is the way I've been told. They're going to call it credits. But the people that look at this, U.S. adds 177,000 jobs in April. Now, we have been steadily fed for the past month, maybe a little longer, about how many people has been unemployed, fired, or etc. And that ain't counting the people that we didn't hear nothing about that did wind up jumping from job to job, or wound up getting laid off, or wound up whatever. But we know that has occurred. So you wonder how come the U.S. has added 177,000 jobs? Because of so many people that's being laid off and unemployed. Use your freaking heads. I've never seen a group of people that was almost like the Bible talks about as a bunch of sheep led to slaughter. We keep going backwards, friends, on our national debt. Even the things that supposedly Elon Musk and that group has done, they haven't helped the situation. What is it? Something like, I think 15,000 people? 15,000 or 17,000, somewhere around in that area, is getting added to the Social Security department because of people retiring. The baby boomers. We're in the baby boom era right now, where you got thousands and thousands of people that's getting ready to basically walk away from their positions and their jobs, and they're fixing to try to seek living out their golden ages, or they call it the rocking chair ages, to be able to live the good life. Well, that's that much more money that the government's having to be out. In the meantime, that's opening up positions for these younger kids to grab a hold and say, hey, there's a position over there. Hey, apply for it. Get you a job. Well, then they it's half truths. They're only telling half of the truth whenever it comes to the inflation. We know out of all the cuts and out of all the layoffs and all the firers, what has destabilized the market the way that it has. No wonder you got 177,000 new appliquees here applying for jobs. No wonder. So if anything, whenever you see that number, 177,000 versus 70,000, in actuality, it's actually a telltale sign that the inflation over here, or the economy over here, has destabilized itself to the degree that that's actually a bad number instead of a good one. But now you'll hear all these media people and all these analysts and all these professional people, they'll get on TV, boy, and they'll tell you, oh, no, even Donald Trump, I think he just got through putting in his 2 cents about how good the numbers look. Really? People are still buying into that? Half-truths. Not telling the whole story, only bits and pieces of it. My God.
Country, particularly even red states where there are actually government workers who are affected.
And Peter, we also, of course, don't know what the knock-on effects are going to be of the tariffs when and if they hit. What's your latest reporting from the White House on how much they would like to find a kind of...
See, these are some more delusional thinking patterns coming from the media, is that you got people that's on TV that's if they're making less than $100,000, they're being ripped off in the status flow that they're in pertaining to the business. Because most of them going to make a whole lot more than that. Matter of fact, some of them has made like quadruple that on average, and that ain't counting your good ones. If you're really good, you're talking about $2 or $3 million, maybe $4 million a year, standing in front of a camera and talking, because you have a good knack. You can as my grandfather used to always say, well, you can chew the fat. In other words, you're a good PR person. Or that's what they want you to believe, that they are a good PR person. And the more people that they can deceive and lead down this endless deception, the more money that they make in essence. I've never seen the news so dishonest as what it is today. Just like this 177,000 new jobs. That shouldn't be looked upon as being good. That should be looked upon as being bad. That tells me that it is a destabilizing moment in America. And now look at the numbers. The numbers, we know this because we've had how many factories that's been laid off? How many factories that Donald Trump said in the past 25, 30 years has been killed in America? 90,000. 90,000 factories. Some of them factories may not have employed but 125 to 150 people. Some of them factories may have employed as much as 30 or 40 or 50,000 people, depending upon the factory. And you got all those numbers in between pertaining to the people's numbers. That's not good. But yet now, throughout all these years, they've been poking this down our throats. Oh, look at the numbers. Look at the jobs. Look at the jobs. Look at the jobs. We're doing great, ain't we? The feds know we're not doing great because they haven't dropped the interest rate. Why hadn't they dropped the interest rate? Because they know if they do, they're going to go into the red. Because they're no longer making a living off the volume of the new contracts that they're putting out there, pertaining to people buying homes and cars and etc. So they're having to make it up on the other end, pertaining to the interest. Now, friends, I don't have but about a 9th grade education. I'm not the sharpest, per se, knife in the drawer. And I may have been born at night. I don't know for sure what my birth certificate says, not having it in front of me. But I wasn't born last night. And until the American people wisen up to this delusion, this deception that they continue to keep throwing down the American people's mouths, wanting us to eat it like we're a bunch of stupid people, until the American people wake up to this, they're going to continue to go down this endless, bad road that has been created. And in the meantime, we're seeing the national debt not go down, but go up. Even during the months that Donald Trump has been president this last term, not counting the first term, we've seen the numbers go up pertaining to our debt. So this is an endless cycle that they're acting like that they don't know how to fix, or they're acting like they don't know what's causing it. And it's the deception. It's the lies. It's the half-truths that they're not telling the American people. In the meantime, they beat their chest like a bunch of apes, thinking, look what I've done, look what I've done. I've created all this. And the whole time, while they're convincing the public that they're doing something good, in actuality, they're doing something bad. And the final results tell the tale pertaining to us steadily going in the hole more and more and more. And until somebody is strong enough to go in and change this, we're going to continue to steal from our children's future and from our grandchildren's future and possibly even their future. I'm fighting every day for a little girl by the name of Anastasia, which is my granddaughter, which is soon to be 2 years old this month. I'm not only fighting for her every day, but I'm fighting for all the children out there, for all those that are struggling right now, and which we know is an astronomical amount of a number, because children today can't even get out on their own. They have to live with their parents sometimes until they're 25, 30, 40 years old. Why? Because they cannot make it on their own. The American dream has been what? Stifled. It has been stifled. I ain't gonna say it's been killed, because you still can get fortunate enough or lucky enough, if you're in the right position with the right career towards making it. There's not near as many people today that's making it in your blue collar. I think I'm right, pertaining to your business sector, pertaining to the banking industry and stuff like that, as there are people. Well, I say there's not as many. Then again, there probably still is, pertaining to the sharks out there that's taking advantage of the public. But there's more people in good sound positions like construction or whatever, that's working for big firms and stuff, that has a good craft about them, that are pretty stable. And some of them people are making well over $100,000 a year, depending upon what company that you're working for and what type of career, what type of craft that you have. That's kind of like people have been taught in America. And this is a contributing factor, the reason why to this day I still don't have people stopping out here and basically partnering up with the founder of the Windmill Ministries Missions, which is myself, is because they have been taught that what you're approaching to do, Mr. Jackson, is illegal, pertaining to the Doomsday Devil's Duel, regarding two individuals coming together and actually battling out to the point that either they kill each other or one kills the other one before the other one kills the other one. And it's not illegal if you're willing to sign a waiver by stating the fact that not only you, of course, if you get killed, you can't sue, but none of your closest kin can sue, and the government cannot retaliate against that agreement. Well, I have yet to see the king over there in Saudi Arabia agree to this duel, which tells me they're still hiding in behind the pen versus coming out with their challenge that they presumably tried to challenge me in 1988, whenever I met up with these group of people that masterminded 9/11 from Saudi Arabia over here in Martin, Tennessee. But in reality, they're cowards. They're cowards because I have yet to get a report regarding a two-state solution versus a one-state solution of the proposal that I've already done made pertaining to the Doomsday Devil's Duel. This is one of the reasons why that they haven't already established by building the third temple back. So they can blow all the smoke that they want, including Israel, of how godly and how that they're really looking forward of leaving this earth and going to a heavenly home. They can blow all the smoke they want to, but in the past 30 plus years, these people have had plenty of time to sit down, analyze biblical Bible prophecy that's already been prophesied way before I even stepped into the picture. Thousands of years of prophecy that they're still hesitant towards fulfilling. Just like the group of people over here in the Western world, I still have yet to see strong supporters. I still have yet to see a congregation that's willing to back the Windmill Ministries missions. They talk the good talk pertaining to, oh, we want peace, we want peace. But yet, no, they'll turn their back on the Ukrainian people. Why? Because obviously there's more influence, there's more reward in supporting the Russian government than it is the Ukrainian government. And whenever you put it on the line, who do you think that our American politicians are going to pull towards? They're going to pull towards the biggest pool. Well, that's one of the reasons why this got us in the trouble that we're in to begin with, is because we have allowed for these people to come over here, and I'm going to use the Saudi Arabians for illustration or an example of investing, making sound investments over here in America with their own money, to the degree that now they're sleeping with them. They're in bed with them. So naturally, if they turn against the Saudi Arabians on a political level, on the front end, it's going to come back and bite the politicians on the back end. Well, who's the one still making all the money? The crooked people, the dishonest people, the bankers, the politicians. To some degree, the preachers, because they're not telling the whole truth. They're only telling half truths. Well, the attorneys and the judges and all the smart people, they know this. The feds, they know this. They know what's going on. But obviously the people don't. They're still being bamboozled. And we're going to continue to be bamboozled until somebody puts their foot down and says enough is enough. And I tend to wonder that as they're being pushed off into this corner of damned if they do and damned if they don't, pertaining to all these catastrophes that continues to bombard not just America, but all the other continents, that eventually there's going to be a snapping point. Eventually the rubber band will only pull so far until it pops. Well, whenever it pops, then what kind of a lie are they going to try to convince the American people of? I've already done seen where they're trying to convince the public, and I think it's the UK, that's spraying some kind of a chemical up into the atmosphere that's supposed to be a dialogue in the world basically going black, as far as the sun going out, of fulfilling the prophecies of the sun becoming as dark as sackcloth. They're already trying to convince the public that if the sun does go out, this is the reason for it. It's because these people were spraying this type of toxic or whatever it was up into the atmosphere. They're doing some sort of a experiment over there in this stuff. I think they're just using it once more for an excuse to be able to deceive that many more people. That way, whenever God does come back in the second coming of Christ, in flaming fire, taking vengeance upon them who know not God and upon them who obey not the gospel, whenever God the Father basically will burn everything that is burnable upon to the planet and throws this planet, not just this nation, but this planet, off into great tribulation, they're going to try to convince the convincible, those that's already weak-minded to begin with. Well, this is the reason why it happened, is because the UK was spraying this chemical over there and it caused the sun to become darkened. They're going to come up with every excuse, every lie, every manipulation that you can think of to try to convince the masses that this is what happened and this is why it happened. Once more, being totally dishonest with the public. Being totally dishonest with the public. This all started during the Reagan era and the Bush era. One day, I'm going to be able to stand and make my case in heaven, standing in front of these people. I don't care if they was presidents of the United States. I'm talking about in the supernatural world, in the spirit world. And I'll be able to point my finger at these men. And I'll be able to say, you know what? You caused this. And it won't just be political people that I'll be pointing my finger at. It'll also be preachers. It'll also be people that knowed what biblical Bible prophecy read, but wasn't willing to support the spearhead that was spearheading it. Now, they still talk the talk. Oh, we want peace. We want peace. If you're buying into that, my friends, I've got some oceanfront property in Phoenix, Arizona that I'm willing to sell you for pennies on a dollar. If you're that naive that you'll buy into that lie, odds are you'll probably buy into all of them. This is the very reason why we're in the shape that we're in. This is also part of the reason why that even to this day, the Windmill Ministries Missions does not see a true, authentic, congregational movement that supports that ministry. Now, whenever Oral Roberts stood up, they immediately started in with supporters. Whenever Pat Robinson stood up, whenever Billy Graham stood up, whenever other type of international evangelists or ministry stood up, there was a movement out of it to some degree. But in essence, and I'm not saying 100%, but in essence, it was a man-made movement. It was something that they was in support of, as long as it didn't take none of their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren off into battle, off into an endless war somewhere. Because that is part of the end-time message, is that there will be wars and rumors of wars, but it also talks about peace, and it also talks about utopia, and it also talks about whenever God comes back, shall he find true faith here upon to the earth, to the degree that people are willing to sacrifice their lives for Jesus' ministry, the same as Jesus was willing to sacrifice his life for us. Now, whenever the rubber meets the road, per se, this is where it all comes true at, after the smoke and the dust is settled in seeing what's going on. So your 177,000 new jobs, as far as I'm concerned, should be dialogued into a bad number versus a good one. And that didn't cost you nothing. But yet now, if you still think I'm crazy, or if you still think I'm a phony or a fake, or if you still thinking whatever that you want to think, we'll continue to keep thinking that, and you'll continue to keep getting the same results again and again and again. I'm still pointing my finger also at the psychiatric community that stood in behind various bad people making bad decisions, including my biological father, James Robert Jackson, known as Bob, that tried to convince, and did to some degree, convince the psychiatric community that his son was psychologically, emotionally, chemically imbalanced. And the whole time, it was my father, the one that was chemically, biological imbalanced. And I think certain people, I know certain people in this particular area can validate that because of the way that he lived his life in being out of control in the abusive behaviors that the family, not just me, but the whole family had to go through. Now you can, as the old saying goes, bullshit a bullshitter all day long. As, who was it? What president that said any jackass can tear down a barn? And they can. You can kick and stomp and romp long enough, you can kick that barn down. But how many good men do we have, and women, that's willing to build the barn back and do so for the betterment of the good regarding our children and our children's children? That's who I'm fighting for. I realize in the past 30 plus years, they have made a mockery, or they have attempted to make a mockery out of God and God's God's chosen vessels. But in reality, the mockery has turned upon to them. And I'm talking about law enforcement beginning right here in Northwest Tennessee. I'm talking about judges, lawyers. I'm talking about smart preachers. I'm talking about good, sound people with good, sound minds have only made a mockery out of themselves. And I think Donald Trump knows this, but he really don't know how to go about straightening it out, because the problem is so complex. Thing about the problem that's complex, every time there is a major flood, every time there is a major event that happens pertaining to the forces of nature, it diminishes the resources. In the meantime, you got a bunch of weak-minded people over here in America that's been spoilt to the degree that they feel like that they're entitled to these entitlements, that if they can't get out here and work for it, well, Uncle Sam just going to cut me a check, right? And every time I produce a baby, I get an extra check, right? The whole concept has been sick. That's put a drain on not just God's chosen vessels, but upon to the whole world. And now they're starting to see this and wake up to it, but they don't know how to fix it without a shock and awe. Well, there's going to be a shock and awe eventually, because like I said, the rubber band will only pull so far. And whenever you're paying more on the interest than you are the principal, matter of fact, we're not paying a bit on the principal, being trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, like we are. We're $36 trillion, something like that. It's a joke. It's a joke, and they're still feeding the wealthiest of the wealthy, pertaining to the one percenters, the conglomerates. They're still feeding them, and those people are still huffing and puffing, even though people like the Waltons have slowed down a lot. Oh, they're putting stuff on clearance towards hurrying up and getting it off the shelves. And they've already made statements, well, we're not exempt from the economy going bust. We see what's happening. And if people like me can see what's happening, do you not think that these smart people that's made this type of money, that's got this type of responsibility, do you not think that they can see what's happening too? It's a cesspool. And I've said it all along, it's an ecosystem pertaining to the market. And you got the bigger fish that feeds off of the littler fish. And then you got the bigger fish that's bigger than the big fish that feeds off of those fish. And then you got the whales. Whenever there ain't no more fish to eat on, and the whole economy goes belly up, even though it's not showing this right now, it's giving a false reading right here. Eventually, they'll change this shit. Whenever enough of the big fish have no other fish to eat on other than themselves, eventually they'll change this. Now, will they change this for the benefit of we the people? Or will they change it for the benefit of themselves? I guarantee you it's going to be to the benefit of themselves. Now, they're going to make it look like it's the benefit to all people, pertaining to everything going to be monitored now, pertaining to Big Brother making sure that he gets a certain cut off of trading 10 chickens for one goat. But the fact of the matter is, what they're going to do is eliminate anybody having a future in making it off the black market pertaining to the syndicate, because God only knows how many people's got money right now stuffed back in their banks, how many houses that they've made, how many businesses that has become fruitful by illegal marketing, by taking stuff and laundering it in other accounts and then bringing it back up and using that same dirty money to make it look like it's all clean money. And that's what's went on here, pertaining to the 1%ers that's taken advantage of the 99%ers. But we still don't have good politicians. We still don't have good preachers. We still don't have good money analysts. We still don't have good media. We still don't have decent people in general that's willing to tell the public the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and only bits and pieces of it. Now, they can put on an act all they want pertaining to this number, 177,000 new jobs, and make it look like, oh, we're doing such of a good job. We've got all these jobs. But once more, what has destabilized the market to the degree that so many people now are seeking employment elsewhere? It's a racket. It's a damn racket, and the people have fallen for it, and it's killing the 99%ers, while the 1%ers are still fattening their pockets.
Find a kind of offer.
And my friends, that didn't cost you nothing, but those that get a hold of this video that I'm making right now, if they want to continue to hear my remarks, to hear my suggestions, to hear my analyst suggestions, and to possibly have some sort of a future for themselves and for their children and their children's children, they better change the flow of their support team, of who they're actually supporting, because if not, whenever the ship goes down, I've used the example of a gallon of milk, that whenever a gallon of milk goes bad, it don't go bad on the bottom and the top still be good. It don't go bad on one side and the other side still be good. So in other words, whenever the flow of money and the money goes bad, it's not just going to go bad for the smaller class, the third class, or the second class. It's going to also go bad for the first class. Whenever the money goes bad, it's going to go bad on the East Coast just like it is the West Coast, or the North just like it is the South. The only difference is these people are setting up themselves right now towards having all these assets, and it's not necessarily what they own, but what they're in control of. It's kind of like whenever the Great Depression hit in 1929 here in America, and I'm just using that one illustration. It wasn't the fact that food wasn't still being produced. It was who was in control of the food and who was in control of the prices of the food. See, once more, it's not what you own, but what are you in control of? And how can you control other people like a bunch of robots, leading them like sheep to the slaughter? This has been way out of hand. It's getting more out of hand every day. And until good, sound, strong people stand up and say enough is enough. And I said this all along. This is one of the reasons why that I did not participate in this presidential election, is because I knew what either side was going to try to do. And of course, we've seen where the Democrat Party was just adding that much more insult to misery whenever it come to letting their guard down and bringing in all the illegals over here. Why? Because they messed up on the front end. They didn't tell the whole truth to the American people regarding how did Ronald Reagan succeed in ending the Cold War. These are the powers that be that the Windmill Ministries missions has been going up against now for the past 30 plus years, that has had skirmishes, spiritual confrontations that turned into physical confrontations, not just here in Tennessee, but also in Kentucky and also in places like Oklahoma or Atlanta, Georgia, that I can validate, that I can prove. And there are certain people that knows my background and knows the things that I have been through and have talked about that I can prove. Just like me being up in LBL and spending basically in total, not at one time, but in total, throughout my life, I have lived at least a year living in the woods like Jeremiah Johnson, so like a mountain man, in different intervals. If you add up from the first time that I walked into that area in 1989, and different times that I've went and come and stayed as many times as I've had, and ice storms and everything else that's happened up there, I have spent at least 365 days sleeping out with the bugs and the mosquitoes and basically living with nature. That, to be quite honest with you, I actually felt more comfortable and safer around being around nature than I do now being exposed to the general public. And of course, we know the patterns prove, regardless whether it be the Tennessee law enforcement agencies or the Kentucky law enforcement agencies or the Oklahoma law enforcement agencies, we see where they have tried everything in the world towards getting Mr. Jackson, the individual that's talking to you right now and behind the camera, towards getting him out of public domain, getting him out of the public eye. We have seen this now again and again and again. And certain people over in Kenton, Tennessee, and right here in Weakley County, Tennessee, Obion County and Weakley County, Tennessee, are going to give an account for this. They think that they've done this and gotten away with it. I don't care how smart they are. I don't care how slick and sly that they are. I don't care how much money that they have. I don't care what kind of position that they may hold, either by being admired by people in a church or admired in people in the legal system. I got news for you. One day, we're all going to sit around that table. And there's going to be some very, very serious questions asked to a great deal of people beginning in Kenton, Tennessee in 1983. And if you don't have some good sound answers whenever the Father asks you these questions, it could very well cost you your very intellectual soul. I'm not the judge. I just know that I know the truth pertaining to being a witness to all this. Just like who masterminded 9/11. To think that our government would be willing to sell the American people out the way that they did, towards telling or making a promise, some sort of a contract with the Saudi government, that we won't go after them in a legal sense towards holding them liable, but we will go at them in a monetary sense towards holding them liable. Once more, that's like a half truth. You're only being half just versus true justice. True justice should have declared war on them freaking people, just like Donald Trump talked about in his first campaign pertaining to going over and taking them people's oil. Taking them people's positions that obviously our politicians over here gave. Just like leaving all that military equipment over there in Afghanistan. How freaking stupid could anything or anybody ever be? Donald Trump may convince certain people over here in America that we've cleaned their slate and we're no longer being laughed at and being mocked. I got news for you, friends. The stuff that our politicians has done in the past 30 plus years, and to think that even to this day the people still ain't holding these people accountable and liable, even though they're supposed to be working for we the people, tells you how deranged that these people are. And you don't think that people on the other side of the pond can see this? Damn right they can. They can see it. They can look at it. They can analyze it. And they're laughing. What a mockery that certain people have brought upon the masses here in the United States. It's shameful. It's extremely shameful, beginning right here in Northwest Tennessee. And they'll spew out this stuff about Patriotism, patriotism, patriotism. Well, we fly the American flag. Okay, that's a good thing, right? But yet, no, these are the people that it's allowed for other people to come over here and burn the flag. Or they're the ones that is allowed for people to come over here and take advantage of the system. And now they have spoiled everybody in the younger generation feeling like that these are entitlements. They're entitled to all these things. I got news for you, my friends. Whenever I was growing up, being born in 1961, we wasn't entitled to nothing other than what we earned. And if we didn't earn it, we didn't get it. There wasn't no entitlements. The women especially suffered during that time towards not getting any type of Social Security or any type of insurance check or whatever you want to call it from the state governments around here, because at that time women were still looked upon as being belittled, because now they had to go elsewhere because their husbands, or their so-called husbands, was abusive or no good to begin with. If the people in America, I can't speak for everybody else, but if the good, decent people in America don't stand up and bring awareness to the lies and put an end to this, it will bring the end to all of us. And that's exactly what a great deal of them would prefer to do. That way they wouldn't have to not only stand and be accountable before the people that has hired them, that's put them in these positions, but they rather take their chances in giving their excuses to God. I got news for them. You can come up with all the excuses you want to. Anybody that has done this pertaining to this travesty on this level here in America, if you think that God's going to wink over this, you really are crazy. You really are insane. Now, you can point your finger at people like me, and you can try to convince yourself and convince others that I'm the sicko, that I'm the one that's sick. But I'm telling you right now, the sickos are the ones that's wearing the nice jackets and wearing the nice clothes, that come out of that hippie era, that decided to cut their hair, no longer wear the beads, didn't have the big bell bottoms, come out of the Woodstock era, and clean up and present themselves in a more decent type form. Those are your sickos. Those are your true crooks and your true pathetic people out there that's still trying to do this and get away with it. Just like falsifying the records in response to giving out numbers like this, 177,000 jobs, and standing back and saying, well, that's a good thing. We done a good thing. We hired 177,000 people in the month of April. My friends, that's not a good report. That is a bad report. Now, I can't make people have common sense. I can't force the light upon to the people in them opening up their eyes and seeing the truth. It's only up to the people that want to continue to go down this endless road of misery that's only getting worse and worse. As the people get worse, the forces of nature gets worse. There's another pattern that people should be looking at. But instead, oh, it's just natural. We're just going through a natural state pertaining to the waters warming up and all the ice melting, and seeing the horrendousness coming out of the forces of nature. Oh, it's just a cycle. It's a natural cycle. Really? Really? Is that what you've convinced yourself of? Well, you go up into East Tennessee and western North Carolina. You go up to some of the places out in California and other areas that has been basically ravaged by the forces of nature. And you try to convince those people that this is a natural cycle. Because they're going to know different. Just like the people down there in southern Mississippi. Just like Brother McCoy. Whenever I went down there in 2005 to help them people and to dedicate my time for humanitarian purposes, Brother McCoy knew that I was authentic, that I was real. Anybody that's willing to quit their job, put their life on hold to help other people, proof is in the pudding. Just like me going up into Kentucky after the ice storm hit. And to think that those people in Grand Rivers, Kentucky, and Benton, and I'm not saying all of them. Whenever I'm talking about people, I'm not addressing everybody. It's not a blanket that I'm putting everybody in. But certain people in that area was trying to what to me? They was trying to stain my character, called character assassination, in the eyes of the general public. That way the general public would have had a resistance approach about me in degrading me and demonizing me rather than accepting me or supporting me. I went through this again and again and again, and the only thing that I can do at this point in time, this stage of my life, is to continue to live my life as I'm living my life, explain to the people what I've been through, explain to the people in what I can see, explain to the people in what is happening to them, because this is a major force that's happening pertaining to the 1%ers against the 99%ers. And until somebody is willing to stand on the plutonium like I am and put themselves out there on a limb, it's only going to get worse, my friends. This deception, this delusion or illusion, whatever word you want to use, is only going to get worse. It's a game. And it's a very evil game. And now it's starting to catch up with these bastards. And I do mean bastards to the degree that their mothers was probably whores. Now, if we're going to be a straight shooter, let's call black black and white white. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, smells like a duck, walks like a duck, odds are it's a duck. That's how I was taught growing up in the real world, not in some sort of a delusional world. And we can obviously see in the real world that the church society is still treating the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions as an outcast. The same as they treated other prophets, the same as they treated Jesus Christ himself. Proof is in the pudding.
Ramp in the tariff war without making it look like an off-ramp, whether there are any deals. We've been hearing mutterings all week about potential deals that might be announced in the next few days. Is that actually going to happen, and does it give them the off-ramp they want?
Well, look, I mean, the idea of a deal, of course, is something that they can put on paper and say it's a victory. Whatever deal is won't be the kind of comprehensive deal we normally get with trade deals, right? The average trade deal, I saw some statistics this morning, take about 18 months to negotiate, right? And 45 months to put into place.
They're not making things better. They're making things worser. Now, they can try to blow all the smoke that they can blow towards trying to convince you otherwise, but I'm telling you right now, payday's coming. There's going to come a time whenever the rubber band can no longer be stretched any further, and it's going to pop. And whenever it does, it's going to be just like that gallon of milk spoiling. It's going to all spoil. I'm just wondering in what other kind of delirious delusion that they're going to try to convince the public of, kind of like blowing this chemical up into the atmosphere that's going to convince certain people that whenever God does come back and throws this great planet off in the Great Tribulation, and the sun does become darkened as sackcloth, just as the Bible has already predicted for it to occur. I'm just wondering what kind of BS that they're going to try to feed down people's throats then, in convincing them, oh, no, this wasn't a God thing. This was because of this. This was because of that. Once more, one lie trying to cover up another lie. But yet, no, they expect in our courts, especially our courts, they expect for us to stand under the pretense of the Bible, put your hand on the Bible, and ask, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Talk about a two-tier system. You don't get no further in a gulf of departure than that. In addition to the poor people, the unfortunate people that basically has to accept the crumbs that falls from the master's table, knowing good and well that I couldn't afford to go out here and hire a $20,000 attorney, that I had to depend upon various lawyers that claim to be lawyers in defense of the defenseless, of those that couldn't afford a lawyer. I had to depend upon this system to be fair to me. And instead of the system being fair to me, it was the very system that was trying to bury me. And Donald Trump needs to see that, pertaining to the wickedness that they was playing off on him himself in bringing up old stuff up in New York that didn't even come close to meeting the criteria pertaining to the statute of limitations. I've never seen so much wickedness and dishonesty as I have in the past, I guess, ever since Donald Trump stepped up into the stage. Since I've come back here in 2014, for the past 10 years. And of course, I lost a brother in the process of all this crap, towards being attacked, that the courts up here in Weakley County allowed to happen. That they're shaking their heads and saying, well, we're not accountable for what the people done. We're not accountable for what the people done. Why aren't they not accountable for what the people done? I'm a citizen of America. Was I treated as a citizen of America whenever I come back to Weakley County, Tennessee? No. They gave the approaches. They gave different signals in trying to look like that they was standing in our corners over here, but the whole time we was being thrown to the wolves, and they knowed it. Tommy Moore, Tommy Thomas, Johnson, all these attorneys, most of these preachers around here, they know what went on, but it backfired on them. I was smart enough to lay low and not take the bait in shooting myself in the foot. Because I guarantee you, if I did, I would be reaping the consequences towards being in somebody's little jail cell somewhere, getting fed a piece of bologna every time they decided to feed me, providing that they decided to feed me. Now, they'll punish people like me, but the crookedest of the crooked, oh, we'll reward them. Just like the false prophets that it talks about. Woe be unto them that speak well of somebody. Woe be unto them, the Bible says. In other words, if everybody's complimenting that person and patting that person on the back and trying to convince themselves what kind of good person that they was, woe be unto that person, the Bible says. Woe be unto that person. Because they was manipulative and they was playing the same game that the people wanted them to play. That's kind of like the sheriff in this county that stood towards being the longest lasting sheriff in Tennessee. Even my cousin Jim Boy recognized, my God, he must be the most corrupt freaking sheriff that ever was, pertaining to having all these clonies around here, pertaining to not just the banking industry, Not just the business industry, because the vast majority of the business industry has died off, but the farming industry. That industry was his cronies that kept voting this crooked, corrupt sheriff by the name of Mike Wilson in power again and again and again and again, making him the longest lasting Tennessee voted in sheriff. And they still have the young people bamboozled, while people like me is trying to open their eyes. Rather than them supporting me or rewarding me, I'm still being shoved down the tubes, kind of like Al Gore and other environmentalists that has told the public that if they continue on this path, this is what you can expect. But because the 1%ers has all this power and all this influence pertaining to the who? Crude oil tycoons. They're the ones that I'd agreed lied to not just the American people, but the world, that has set us a sail towards seeing these catastrophic events coming from the forces of nature like I never would have even began to have dreamed of that was going to occur, not just in America, but all over the world. And that's another image that I want to talk about. That in a way is a real image, but another way it's a false image, because it keeps people questioning of whether or not what they're looking at is real or not, pertaining to social media. Some of the stuff that you look at social media, it's pretty obvious that they've made it up, but some of them are pretty good in making it look so real that if you don't watch, you'll fall for it. Or if you don't identify the time frame whenever it happened, you'd think it just happened yesterday. Oh my God, this just happened. This just occurred. Why? Because they don't explicitly put the time date on it. They do that for a purpose. It's called half-truths. It's called being deceptive. And because of it, it makes social media not have credibility towards keeping everybody in the dark of whether or not this is truthful or whether or not this is made up, whether or not this is fake, phony news, or whether or not it's the real news. There's so many different mixed signals that's being put out right now to our younger class generation. You wonder how come the suicide rate is as high as it is. You wonder how come the crime rate is as high as it is. You wonder how come all the bad stuff continues to keep happening, not just to the American people, but all over the world. That's why. That's why. And to think that I got a granddaughter, soon to be 2 years old, that's fixing to be introduced to all this, that's fixing to have to be played on like this, or preyed on like this, played or prayed, either one, because she's going to be part of the 99%ers, while the 1%ers continues to do it and get away with it. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening, but yet our politicians want to point their fingers and say, oh, communism, it's evil. Oh, oligarchs, oh, it's evil. Or this or that is evil. While they're pointing their finger at one person, they've got three of them pointing back at themselves. My friends, this is evil. It's become wicked. And we're seeing not thousands, but millions of lives worldwide be destroyed on account of it. In the meantime, Satan, the Luciferian Lucifer, is sitting back in the corner, and he's smiling, and he's laughing, and he's hee-hawing. He's rolling in the floor right now because he knows that he has deceived not just the American people, but the world in general. Now, once again, those that get a hold of this video, I hope to God that they've got enough umption about themselves that they can put aside all the entanglements that these evil people have put out there for people to look at as a distraction. While they're still fattening their pockets, we're still getting poor and we're still going through misery and hell. That's the best way I know of putting it out there where the rubber meets the road, is that proof is in the pudding, in seeing how many poor people has become poor, or how many people that is having to retire that basically at the end of the month ain't got a pot to piss in and nowhere to throw it because they've stretched themselves so thin. At the end of the day, they don't even have enough money to go down to the local store and get them a Coca-Cola. Now that's the facts. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. And God bless our endeavors towards where this is all building. I think it's building towards trying to blind the people in throwing this thing off into another major third world war. And of course, whenever people are on the street starving, whenever your stomach muscles start extracting to the degree that you feel all these hunger pains, and you know that instead of you doing well for yourself, you're actually depleting in your health this way, or they're taking your job, or they're taking your car, or they're taking your home, or they're taking your life, and now you're left holding a bag and the bag's empty. Is that what it's going to take to waken the people's eyes? While people such as myself are trying to help, while others is still convincing them that I'm trying to hurt. God bless America, and heaven help us all, because I guarantee you, we as not only Americans, but as the citizens to society, we're going to need it. This thing never should have gotten in this type of shape that it's in, beginning with the Reagans and the Bushes, and they'll give an account for that, as well as the people over in Kenton, Obion County, and the people in Weakley County. They'll give an account for this one day. Don't think for 1 second that you have done this and gotten away with it, because you didn't just bring hurt and harm to the individual speaking in behind the camera, but now you brought hurt and harm to everybody, including the vast majority of yourselves.